Hello and welcome to the theElpyDimension. I am your guide, Elpy. So, several days ago, I posted about, I called it Pruning PSA because I was not paying attention and I was just pruning my winter luxury pumpkin plant because actually tonight we have a freeze warning. Not just frost, freeze. And knowing that we were going to be expecting frost this week, I was pruning. This thing was growing out here, it was growing up there, it was taken over here, and you'll see that it is still growing over here. So I was pruning the growing tips to tell the plant to stop focus on growing and go ahead and focus on ripening your fruits. And as well, this plant still has some it has a lot of powdery mildew. Now, as you're already seeing in that pruning PSA, I talked about how I accidentally, because I was not paying attention, I was just going to town, I was also on the phone. I got some blackberries. This one's not fully ripe, but I don't dare leave it. I was not paying attention and I clipped the main vine. The plant is over there. One way to tell if it's an older vine is newer growth is going to be a lighter green, at least in pumpkins, I think it's safe to say. While older growth is going to be, it's going to look older. It's a darker green, and sure enough, I snipped it and I thought, oh my goodness. So I'm just here to do a little bit of an update. This is a different vine from the main plant, so thankfully that vine was not affected. But what I discovered afterwards was you see that these leaves are still, they look good. And these pumpkins, are not dying. They are yellowing, so maybe this guy's also on there, and that little pumpkin. And they definitely were attached to the main vine that I cut. That's why I was super bummed, because these were actually the biggest pumpkins, these two. But what I discovered afterwards was that this vine had rooted itself. And that's not a surprise to me. I know that pumpkins and squash and watermelon, they will root. In fact, one of the vines that I cut that was growing here was starting to root into the pea gravel, or pea stone, however you prefer to say it. So I'm glad that I saw that instead of just angrily pulling out the whole vine, because when I saw that, I thought, okay, I've cut this vine from the mother plant. However, it has its own roots. You can actually see that right there? That's a root. So it's been quite a few days now, and this vine has not died. In fact, we even have a beautiful flower. So, not to my, I don't find it surprising, but it is, it does feel great to know that I did not, even though I cut the main vine accidentally, not all hope is lost. And that, in fact, this is kind of become its own plant. And so the interesting part, although we have a freeze warning, so that doesn't bode well, I am going to put blankets over. So essentially, this and this are not the same plant anymore, which means that they can each focus on growing themselves. So I'm not even asking the mother plant to, hey, harvest this fruit and that fruit, or mature, grow those fruits, develop them, and these. No, this plant can work on those, and this plant these. So I just wanted to update you on that. That's very encouraging to me. Really exciting, actually. And I know it'll come as no surprise to a lot of you, because that's one thing, if you get vine borers, which they're long dead here, but if you get vine borers, you can, if part of your plant has rooted itself, then you can cut that borer, that grub, out of the plant and cover that back up. I think you can do that anyways, but you're especially have a good chance if your plant is rooted. So I like to grow vertically. However, that's one advantage. One disadvantage to growing vertically is that your plants aren't going to be rooted, because they won't be making contact with the soil. So something to think about. Lucky me in this case that this plant had rooted itself in the soil down there. So I'm super excited. And while we're here, I want to show you something else that's interesting. So stay tuned for more updates on this. These are garlic sprouts. This year, if you haven't been following me or you haven't seen, I grew, planted my tomatoes in here after my garlic had come up, and I underestimated how quickly tomatoes grow, which I do know, but so they quickly overwhelmed the garlic plants, and I did get most of them out, but I also became overwhelmed by several groundhogs actually, that were sort of raiding my garden. And so while this hardware cloth, as it's called, protected me quite a bit, protected my plants, they did actually eventually get into this. It also meant that I wasn't as on top of my garlic as I should have been. So there's a lot of garlic that got left behind, as evidenced here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave some of it and see what happens next year. What do you think? But anyways, more on that later. Thank you. I appreciate your time and your interest. Be safe. Be well. If you enjoyed this video, or you didn't, hit the thumb one way or the other. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Bye for now.